Hi, friends, and welcome to the Passionpreneur Series. I'm so excited to have you back. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different. So, we've been diving deep into marketing, branding, website design, you name it, a lot of the creative aspect of our business. Today, I want to get down into something a little heavier, but super, super important. Law. What is legal? How to legitimize, is that a word? Yeah.
We're gonna make it one.
Yeah, your business. And make sure that you really are following all the guidelines that are set out there. And there's a lot that you may not be aware of, especially when it comes to website, email marketing. These are so many things that we've been stressing to you over the past 21 days that are important in your business. But if you don't know how to properly do them so that you're not blocked, blacklisted, any of those things, those awful words, we got to get down to the nitty gritty of it. So I'm so excited today. We have Nicole Oden on board. Hello, Nicole.
Hi.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to chat with you guys.
Of course. Just briefly, where are you calling in from?
So I am in Simi Valley, which is in Ventura County. I'm about 40 minutes outside of LA.
Nice. And you guys are doing good? Family's good?
Yes. It's beautiful here today. It's like 80 outside and I want to go just frolic in the sunshine rather than.
Well, let's get to the business at hand and then you can get out there. So Nicole, I would love for you just to jump right in. Tell us who you are, your business background, just more about you and why we should listen to you.
Okay, so hi, my name is Nicole Oden. I am a licensed attorney here in the state of California. I've been licensed for almost 8 years, or almost 9 years, 9 years now. And I have my own law firm as well as an online business. So in my law firm, I handle both family law and contract law matters. And my online business, I offer legal templates. So for other online business owners who aren't necessarily ready to work with an attorney for one-on-one kind of custom drafted contracts and policies, you can snag a legal template, customize it for your business, and have something to make sure that you have some sort of legal protection in place. I've been in the online space now for over 2 years, and this was something that I was just troubled by. I feel like a lot of people find out about the online space. They see how easy it is to really jump in and start making money, which is amazing. This is an amazing opportunity that we have in this day and age, but they weren't thinking about the legalities that come along with having a business. So that's kind of what kind of sparked my entrepreneurial light bulb. And I just said, hey, I have this product that I can offer to make sure at least you have basics in place, because I know a lot of people hear the word legal or attorney or law, and it just feels so scary and it feels so overwhelming. And it feels like, I'd rather just stick my head in the sand than deal with it. That's not a smart move. And you're not building a solid foundation for your business if you just ignore legal entirely. So the templates give you kind of a springboard. And then obviously I work with entrepreneurs too on a one-on-one basis if they want to have something custom drafted. So
that's awesome. So is there ever a point where you're so small it doesn't really matter? You don't have to think about it?
I hear that a lot. I hear a lot of people say, I'm just a small online business. I'm earning low six figures, or even somebody just getting started, that their goal is maybe just to make an extra $500 a month for their family. Why would I want to spend the money getting my legal in place? And the answer to that is really, you can have somebody file a lawsuit or a claim against you no matter how small you are, no matter how minuscule your business is in your eyes, no matter how entry level, new, just getting started. We live in a day and age where people are litigious, unfortunately, and it just takes one person being unhappy filing a lawsuit, and they really can get a judgment against you and have that enforced. And it's a scary thing. So I think that one of the most important investments that you can make for yourself and your business really is, from day one, just being aware of the legalities and having an understanding of the steps that you need to take.
And now a lot of that does vary, of course, if you are an LLC, an S Corp. I mean, there's so many different things you can assign for your business as well. Is it good, back up, should you choose one or the other based on legal terms, or is it just, does it matter?
In terms of forming a business entity?
Yeah.
So business entities really are specific to you and your business. And I always say that deciding what entity you're going to form is something that you want to discuss with both an accountant and an attorney, because it involves two different perspectives. Financially, your taxes, because that's an important part of being a business owner, and then legally, your protections. The day that you open your doors as a business owner, you are a sole proprietor unless you take some sort of other affirmative action to form some other type of entity. And the most common entities, so you have sole proprietor, which is the de facto business entity. As a sole proprietor, you yourself are personally liable for everything that happens in your business. So you are signing contracts on behalf of yourself. If somebody has an issue, they come after you personally. Versus if you take the time to either form a corporation or an LLC, the kind of cornerstone of those entities is limited liability. And that means that the law looks at the entity as its own separate person, and the entity is who's held liable unless there's other issues, in which case the court can do something called pierce the corporate veil. So that's where it's really important to know that even if you're going to go through the steps and the rigmarole of forming an LLC or forming a corporation, you still need to be aware of how to run that entity. You want to make sure that you're doing it legally, that you're following all the steps. And that's where sitting down with a small business attorney and an accountant to kind of chat about those steps and chat about what it looks like for your business is so, so imperative. It's a very smart business move for you as a business owner.
Wow, I've never heard of that. You said it was pierce the veil?
Pierce the corporate veil, yeah. So the biggest thing that I see is that business owners do something called commingling finances. So as a business owner, it's really, really important that you understand that you need to keep your personal finances separate from your business finances. So if you are a corporation, let's say, and you decide that you're going to use your business basically as your own personal slush fund, you're dipping in, you're paying personal expenses, your electricity for your house, your dog grooming bill, all of these things, and something comes up and you end up in court for some reason, the other side could kind of bring in the books and say, look, we can't tell where the business ends and you begin. You guys have basically become one and the same with how you've run your books and how you've run your business. You shouldn't be afforded the luxury and the benefit of claiming limited liability through this business entity when you've blurred those lines. Oh, so wow. If this certain test is met, the court could just say, look, that's great. I'm glad that you formed that entity, but we can't tell who's who, so we're going to hold you personally liable. And I'm not saying that to scare you, but I really just want you to be aware that as a business owner, there's so much more behind what you need to do to make sure that you're protected versus just kind of jumping in and starting a business and away you go. Because legal protections you can't put in place after the fact. Right. Like an insurance policy, you want to make sure that you have it in place if something happens so that you have that to fall back on.
That's a good nugget right there. Legal protection you can't put in place after the fact. Oh my goodness. Okay, and for this, of course, it changes again once you bring on employees. Yeah. It's another layer.
Yeah, that's a whole other ball of wax. My cornerstone, the business owners that I work with tend to be in the early entrepreneurial stage. So they're like 0 to 5 years in. And they generally work with independent contractors. But that's also something that you need to be aware of. Are you hiring independent contractors or are you hiring employees? And a big piece of that decision is the sphere of control. So is the person you're hiring kind of able to make their own decisions? Are they operating on their own? Are you just like bringing somebody in to draft your copy who's a copywriter? Or are you bringing somebody in for your daily day-to-day operations? You're telling them the tasks to do, how to do it, how to accomplish it. And then there's tax implications if you're hiring an employee versus an independent contractor. There's just a whole host of other issues. So that's another stage. This is why I always say business owners really should be kind of doing an annual check-in with their small business attorney just to talk about what's developed, the changes, the new services, the revisions in the refund policy. Do you need to switch business entities? Were you a sole proprietor and now you want to become a corporation? Sometimes corporations decide they want to go back to being a sole proprietor. Especially in California, we have that kind of tax right off the bat when you decide to become a corporation or an LLC. And if your business isn't making a lot of money, that could be a big reason to stay a sole proprietor while you're still kind of trying to build your customer base. So there's so many moving pieces. It's really, really just smart to have that that attorney in your corner. I always say there's kind of 5 people that every entrepreneur should kind of have in their back pocket: an insurance agent, a banker, an attorney, an accountant, and I'm drawing a blank on the 5th one.
Oh,
I know
no.
there's a 5th one. Insurance, bank, accountant. It'll come to me, watch. There's 5 though. I'll come back to it.
No, but that's super valuable and important. So I know you touched on, oh, now I'm drawing a blank. Oh my God.
It's Monday.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So a temporary employee, you know,
Mhm.
a contract employee, for example, versus a full-on employee.
Mhm.
In California, this new law passed, which has now kind of thrown that in the air as well. A lot of people that thought they had contract
Yeah.
help, they may not have been.
Yeah. So the new law basically makes that every person that you hire is presumptively an employee, unless you meet some sort of exemption, in which case a different test applies. So they've really made it so that the onus is on the business owner to prove that the person is an independent contractor and they're responsible for things like paying their own taxes, which is really the crux of it, what it really comes down to. That's kind of the motivation behind all of this, because the government wants their fingers in the taxes.
Right.
And as an independent contractor, you have the bonus of being able to write off a lot of your expenses versus not having that ability if you're an employee, in which case they can come after the employer to pay a portion of your taxes. So
There is a lot to think about here.
there is, and that's why I always say it's just so smart to sit down with a small business attorney and walk through your business. What does it look like? What services do you offer? Do you sell a product? And just so you can kind of have the lay of the land in terms of your potential liability, so you can map out a strategic game plan and know kind of going forward the steps that you need to take to make sure that you're staying legit as a business owner. And it sounds so like, oh my gosh, this is so much to be worried about. And it can cause that kind of analysis paralysis to where you're not making any movement forward. And I think that's kind of become my passion behind what I do in the online space, is to make it so it doesn't have to feel so overwhelming and so scary. Just sitting down and having like a 1-hour consultation where you can get kind of that lay of the land and breathe a sigh of relief because you know what applies to your business and what steps to take. It's just such a smart investment, and it's such a kind of peace of mind so that you can take that big deep breath and know, okay, I'm good. And now I can go on to the next project and focus on growing and scaling my business, which is really, at the end of the day, what we're all here to do.
Exactly. So now what if your business is brick and mortar and online?
Yeah. So there's a lot that kind of comes into play, because the online space is still a bit of the wild, wild west in terms of what applies. Jurisdictional lines cross. Obviously, we're a worldwide economy in the online space.
Mm-hmm.
So finding a small business attorney who has experience in the online space and kind of understands those intricacies is really, really smart, especially if you're a brick and mortar who's newer and not exactly sure how this is going to segue into the online space. I think it's just one of those questions that you want to make sure you ask when you call to schedule your consultation. Do you work with online business owners? Is this something that you have knowledge of?
Wow, I hadn't thought about that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So a lot of our audience is 1 to 2 years, 3 years into their business. They're still figuring out perhaps some of these things they have implemented, but probably not, just because they hadn't thought they were ready for it yet.
Mm-hmm.
They come into your office or they meet virtually with you. What are the first few things you're going to take them through?
Yeah. So if it's somebody that's really in the entry level, really it's just making sure they have a viable idea, be it a service or a product, and it's something that they're making money with. I think that's kind of the first test, because going through all of the hoops and making sure everything's legal, that's great. But if you're not making money doing it, it can feel like you're kind of going down that rabbit hole. Once you kind of know, you've validated, you have that income, you've had your first client or you sold your first product, then you kind of want to move to, okay, what business entity makes the most sense for me? Should I stay a sole proprietor for a couple of months and kind of see how this goes? Really, if you're in an industry that kind of maybe malpractice claims are high, is it smart to go ahead and jump into an LLC right away? Or in California, it's a professional corporation, because a lot of licensed professionals cannot even form an LLC in California. Like me as an attorney, since I'm a licensed professional, I have to actually form what's called a professional corporation. I can't form an LLC.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So those kinds of things where you just sit down and talk about what your kind of business growth timeline looks like. So you get that entity in place, and then you're going to go ahead and get your employer identification number, your EIN number from the IRS, and you're going to open up a business bank account. That's one of the most important things that you can do to make sure you're keeping finances separate. We talked about a few minutes ago, that whole idea of piercing the corporate veil. So I say it's so, so important from day one to make sure that you're in the practice of keeping your finances separate. Even as a sole proprietor, I think it's still smart to have a separate bank account and just handle finances separate, so that you're trained as your business is growing. Then you're used to that whole separation, and it's a lot easier. And then once you kind of are in that process, making sure that you have solid contracts and policies in place is so key. So if you're a service provider, getting a really solid client agreement in place is one of the smartest things that you can do to protect your income. I like to say that your client agreement really is the backbone of your working relationship. Because it's going to lay out everything, like what you're getting paid, when you're getting paid, exactly what services you're offering, what happens if you do have a dispute. Are you guys going to end up in court? Are you arbitrating? Are you mediating? Kind of things like indemnification language to make sure that you're protected from kind of those little piddly claims of, claims or undue risk. You just want to make sure that kind of your I's are dotted, your T's are crossed. And the good thing about that is it really does improve the experience for your client. And I know a lot of people think like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have my client sign this like 6-page document that it feels like it's protecting me, but you kind of have to flip your thinking and look at it as it's protecting both of you. Because the client's coming into that relationship knowing exactly what they're gonna get. They know exactly what to expect. And it just really does kind of like, I think it ups your street cred as a professional, because it makes you look so much more professional. It makes the experience so much smoother and easier for your client. And that kind of generates that positive word of mouth for you as a professional. And that in and of itself, I think is priceless.
So what if you're a social media manager?
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to have one of these contracts?
Yeah, you definitely want to have a client agreement as a social media manager, and you have your client sign it, and it lays out exactly what you're posting, where, when you're posting. Is your client going to be supplying you the graphics and the copy? Are you creating the graphics and copy? The materials, are you releasing all of the copyright rights to your clients, or are you retaining the right to be able to put those in your portfolio? So there's a lot of things that you kind of want to make sure you're covering in this agreement. And it's so smart because it really is, again, it's like your Bible for your working relationship. Your client has a question, you go back to that client agreement and look to see what's covered. And I think it's really smart to know that a contract involves some negotiation. So every business owner is going to have a time where they send a contract and a client's going to ask for changes or an explanation, or can we tweak this provision this way? That's normal. So don't just think it's got to be this standard boilerplate contract that you sign and they sign right away and everything's going to, there's got to be some fluidity in the relationship.
That's a really great point. I'm glad you brought that up, because I think for myself, I've had to send out a number of contracts, and even doing this series, we had to send out contracts to our speakers beforehand. And there was definitely, with everything, there's always some pushback and questions on things. And I was really concerned, do I need to have my lawyer look at every single question that they have to see if it can be taken out or adjusted, or is it something I can do?
And I think that it's kind of a comfort level. A lot of more established business owners will be very familiar with their contracts and what we call boilerplate terms. And by boilerplate, I mean kind of a lot of the time the small print at the end of the contracts, people don't look over. They say, oh, it's boilerplate, it's not important, I'm going to ignore it. The devil is in the details. Those provisions at the end of every contract really do contain so much. So I am such a huge proponent, and I always tell my clients, read every contract. I do not care how boring it is. I don't care if it takes you, 5 days of putting it down and coming back and you only get through a couple provisions. You need to know what you're signing, period. And if that means you hire an attorney for a limited consultation purpose to sit down and walk through it and offer some feedback, that's a smart business decision to me, because if you are just signing something and you have no idea what you're signing, that really can bite you in the butt. And in terms of signing contracts, another important point that I like to make is you really want to pay attention to how you're signing a contract. So at the beginning, I indicated, so if you're a sole proprietor, you are personally liable for everything that happens in your business. You're going to sign contracts for your business. But if you've gone and taken the steps to incorporate and let's say form a corporation, or you formed an LLC, you want to make sure that you're signing that contract on behalf of the corporation or on behalf of the LLC, not yourself personally.
Interesting. Okay. So would that be in the writing on their part? The company or the person who's giving you the contract would have to make sure it's written out that way?
Yeah, or even as the business owner yourself, you can always just put, Nicole Oden, owner of, Nicole Tree Oden Law Professional Corporation, or how, you just want to make sure it's very clear that you're signing on behalf of that business entity.
Oh, see, I feel like you just landed on something. I was like, wait a minute, how many contracts have I signed and didn't realize that?
And it's a loophole. And it's, if somebody decides to take you into court and they've got a vicious attorney on the other side, that it's one of those things. That's why the devil is in the details. It really is.
Wow. How often, or is there even a metrics where you want to try and solve an issue with a mediator, talking it out as opposed to just going to court?
I am a huge proponent of mediation and arbitration. That's just, as an attorney, that's kind of the central focus in my practice. Even in my family law practice, it's a settlement-minded family law practice, because I feel like so much time and energy and assets are wasted litigating. The flip side of the coin is, depending on how big or how small the issue is, sometimes it can be more expensive actually to go that route. Mm-hmm. So it really is a case-by-case determination to see what's at play. Is it something to where you guys can have negotiations between yourself before you even have to jump to the next step? There's language in a lot of contracts that basically says we need to try and have some sort of meet and confer before we escalate and before we go to the next step. And if we can't, in the meet and confer process, kind of either narrow down the issues or find a resolution, then we'll go into, mediation or arbitration, and then we'll go to court. So it's like a tiered process that really pushes you to settle, because the longer it goes, the more expensive it gets in terms of fees for you. So
right. Okay, so this may be obvious, but I'm going to ask anyway. You have a client, you present them with an agreement contract, and they just have a really hard time signing it. Like they for whatever reason, they've come back to you multiple times with changes, questions, but they just don't want to sign it. Mm-hmm. But they swear they want to use your services.
Red flag.
Let them go.
Red flag.
Okay.
Yeah, red flag. So I'm gonna stop here, because I'm gonna give my standard disclaimer, and then I'm gonna chat a little bit about why this is a red flag. So I am a licensed attorney, as I said at the beginning, but everything I'm sharing today is legal education and information. It's not legal advice. So you want to make sure that you are chatting with an attorney in your area to make sure you're taking the right steps for you and your business. So that's kind of my standard disclaimer, because obviously, as I said, you want to make sure you're sitting down with an attorney, because every situation is different. And that's where I'm going to turn to this question, because every situation is different. I will say, though, most of the time, somebody who is not wanting to sign a contract is a red flag and somebody that you should walk away from. Because if you are having that many questions, that much pushback on a contract in terms of negotiating, what's it going to look like if you walk away from the idea of a contract and then you start working with them? Let's say we'll run with the idea of social media manager. How is that person going to act in terms of revision requests? They could be the type of person that asks for 500 revisions and perhaps your contract only provides for 3. They could want emergency help where they're emailing you on a Sunday night and they want something done by 7 a.m. Monday morning. Your contract could provide for your turnaround time and indicate that rush services are an additional charge. So there's these kind of situations that you think through in advance in your contract that you're not going to be able to, again, put in place after the fact with a client who, quite frankly, is just pushing you to scope creep. It's a very real term. It's somebody who just keeps asking for more to where it's jeopardizing your relationship with your other clients. And then you are in a very hard position trying to get rid of them. So I just say it's a red flag. It's easier to walk away.
I love that. Easy, done, red flag. Okay. So let's move into your online business
Mhm.
with your legal templates. How do those work? We go onto your website, we purchase one, and then we can tweak it? Or do we have
Yes.
to have a conversation with you as well?
Yeah, no, so the templates are basically a product. They're an online product. So when you purchase a template, you get both a PDF version and a Word version for you to go in and customize. And the templates are annotated with kind of instructions and step-by-step, if this, then this, if not this, take this out. So it's built to be very self-explanatory. And I think any legal template that you find in the online space will probably be that way. The goal really is to make it so it's something that customizes for your business so that you have something in place to protect yourself. As an attorney, though, I always say, make sure whatever legal template you're purchasing is coming from an attorney who is a licensed lawyer, basically, to appear in front of a court to make arguments. You want to make sure that it's somebody who can offer that template. They have that experience, they have that expertise.
Oh, wow.
And B, it's really, really smart to take the completed template to an attorney. Yes, it's still an expense, but it is a heck of a lot cheaper than paying the attorney to draft something from scratch versus they can go in and say, well, in your case, in this business, it might make sense to have an arbitration clause versus a litigation clause in your dispute resolution section. It might make sense to tweak your refund policy here because of this. And those are some things that just having a sounding board, and if that only means you work with another business owner that you trust to be able to look at it, having that second pair of eyes, I think is so smart, but I really, really recommend that it be an attorney just to go in and kind of give that final seal of approval.
Wow. Okay, so again, another interesting thought. Oh my goodness, I didn't realize that. You should find an attorney who is licensed to appear in court.
Yeah, so there's a difference between lawyer and attorney. And so a lot of people don't know this. So lawyer is somebody who's just attended law school and they have their law degree. So they're basically trained in the law, in the way of analytical arguments, which is great. An attorney is somebody who's actually licensed to practice. So they have taken a bar exam and passed the bar exam and they're able to appear in court.
Oh, wow. Okay, so obviously you would be able to, or we would be able to recognize that by their logos, I guess, after their name or however they're presenting themselves.
Yeah, so you should be able to go to your state's state bar website and actually type in their name and it'll let you know if they are a practicing attorney.
Okay. Gosh, that's awesome. This is so good. Wow. Okay. So you touched on it very briefly in the beginning, but like, what made you want to do this, to offer this service?
So I was in law school and I was really on the fence about if I wanted to do family law or criminal law. That's kind of where I started. And I clerked with the former presiding judge of the Los Angeles County Superior Court Family Law Division. And I sat on the McCourt divorce, which is the daughter divorce. So that was kind of my foray into family law. And I got really passionate about family law, but family law in a more settlement-minded fashion, because I watched this high-profile divorce play out, and they were literally fighting over a house that the wife just did laundry in. Like they had the house for her to do laundry.
Oh my goodness.
So, yeah, so it was a very kind of surreal learning experience for me. And I got out just being super passionate about helping families not drain their entire estate and know that you have children and that child is half of your ex-partner, and making sure that, you know, it's as healthy of a family, just a new kind of reconstructed family. And there are some certain situations, domestic violence, child abuse, those types of cases, litigation is necessary and you need to have kind of that pit bull attorney. But I don't think that is a good fit for a lot of family law cases. And so I was kind of just living, breathing work. I was working 12 to 14-hour days at my old firm, and that was kind of life. I loved what I was doing. And then I got pregnant with my daughter, and it was, it just flipped my whole world upside down. I had this little 3-month-old at home, and I remember my first day back at work, she refused to take a bottle and went 12 hours without eating, and I lost it. I lost it. So I extended my maternity leave, and I was trying to figure out, like, what do I do now? How do I be present as a mom and still do what I love? Because I didn't want it to be this this or that. I wanted to find a way to combine them. And I remember I was just back from maternity leave after I had extended it for a month. And my partner took me to lunch, and he was sitting there talking about all the extra stuff I needed to start doing, and the additional networking and rainmaking and all these things. And I just thought, I can't, like this. Why am I building somebody else's business? What am I doing? And so the very next day, I went in and gave my notice. And then it was kind of like, okay, now what? So I started my practice. I started my own family law practice. I was doing contract law or contract work for other female-owned family law firms. And that was great. But I was really kind of experiencing postpartum anxiety. And I didn't know that's what I had at the time, but I was just really struggling. And I had stumbled into the online space, really just kind of to get my health and my physical fitness back kind of in check. Mm-hmm. And through that experience, I had so many people finding out I was an attorney, and they just start messaging me questions about their business. And it was that light bulb moment where I was like, these people need help. But whenever I would say, go talk to an attorney, they would say, but it's so expensive. It's so intimidating. It's so, they just didn't think it was kind of an easy experience. To them, it just seemed so foreign and so expensive and scary and intimidating. And that was kind of when I decided, okay, I'm going to make legal seem approachable and accessible and affordable for these online entrepreneurs, because the online space is growing exponentially. It continues to grow exponentially, even while we're in this quarantine situation. So many business owners are finding ways to branch out online, but they're just ignoring the legal side of stuff. And so that was kind of the bridge that I started to build. So I started offering legal templates, and then I had people asking for the custom drafted policies. And then I started offering that. So my firm has now morphed, since now I still have my family law practice, but I'm also doing the custom contract policies. And then I have my online business. So I kind of have, built this business that expanded and grew in ways that I didn't expect, but it's been such a fun kind of roller coaster ride.
That's such a great way to serve people. Taking something that you already loved and you're passionate about, and finding an avenue that, it sounded like you hadn't even expected.
No. And it's funny because I didn't attend law school thinking, I'm going to, be an entrepreneurial attorney. It wasn't something that I expected. Right. It just kind of fell in my lap, and it's been something that I've just loved continuing to learn and to grow. And I've met so many amazing people like you through this process. So it's been fun.
That's amazing. Oh my God. My note sheet is just full here. Okay. Well, gosh, I don't have any more questions. So then I just want to ask, what other takeaways do you want to leave with us?
I think that, I talked about that analysis paralysis, and I think that it's something that a lot of business owners kind of get in this spot to where they're fearful of taking that next step. Yeah. And I think just take this step, just kind of take that movement forward, because so many small steps will lead to something amazing, and you never know where it's going to go. And it's probably going to end up in some place, in some fashion that you didn't even expect. I look at my business, and I never expected to build this type of business, but I love it. It's my business, and I don't see anybody else getting in and building something similar, because it's me. It's so unique to me. And I think everybody has that opportunity as a business owner. And I think that we just need to kind of listen to our gut and follow our heart and just take that next step. And, failure is involved. That is part of being a business owner, but it's what you do with the failure and where you go after that really matters. So
I love that. When we started this conversation, I had some ideas in my head of what I wanted to talk to you about, but this has been so good and so insightful. And you've nailed it. You've made this approachable. I'm not going to lie, you scared me a little bit there. Just on a few things.
Yeah.
But I feel more informed, first of all, more empowered that way. And knowing that there's someone like you with your services out there, that is a great first step. That is something I can do. It's not intimidating. I can make that first step, and then from there grow as my business grows and the needs of it grow. And that to me is just huge.
I appreciate that. Thank you. That's really what I set out to build. And so for me, this is where I come from, a place of service. And this is where I come from my heart. It really is just helping other female business owners build something and build a legacy for their families. That's what I'm passionate about. So I appreciate that feedback. Thank you.
I know you mentioned a little bit ago, just with everything going on, not to timestamp this so much, but with quarantine and COVID and everything, jumping on the online wagon has been all we've heard about the past
Mm-hmm.
month and a half. How has your business increased or changed during this time?
So my online business actually had the best month it's had since it started this month, which has been amazing.
Oh my gosh.
And I made the pivot. I've been talking about, so I've always said that my law firm is brick and mortar because I predominantly work from home, which is amazing, but I would still go into an office space and have meetings. And I have been talking about transitioning to a full virtual firm and setting up a separate website basically since I started in the online space, and I just kept putting it off. And this was really my kick in the pants. So last Friday, my virtual law firm actually went live. And so
Oh my gosh.
that's been the amazing thing that's happened in quarantine. I'm super excited about, and it's really pushed, I think, me to really grow into where I saw my business heading. But it's like one of those things where you imagine something, but it's almost like too good to be true. And it's there now. So it's been great.
That's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So is that a different email address, but website? And
Yeah. So that's NicoleShreeOdenLaw.com. And it basically has both my family law and my contract law services there. So you can book a consultation. And that's been a fun adventure, kind of getting fully into online space. And then NicoleShreeOden.com is my legal template shop. So
very cool. Oh my gosh, congratulations.
Thank you.
That is huge. I love that. So many great positive stories and things have come out of what's going on right now. And I think it's so important to acknowledge that. Like, this time didn't have to be so scary. It didn't have to be bad. It didn't have to end up, on the wrong side.
Yeah.
We all have opportunities if we're open to it. It's just a matter of pivoting, like you said, and being open to things and giving it a go. I mean, so many of my audience, I know I'm talking to you guys now, with your side hustle, you're still on the fence of like, should I, can I go over here?
Take the step. Really, you're never going to know unless you take the step, and you could stumble and you could fall, but then you'll know. You'll never know if you don't take the step at the end of the day. So.
I love it. All right, final question. This is the Passionpreneur Series, after all. Have you found your passion?
Yes. Yeah. And it feels so good. Like, I just got chills. It feels so good to say that because I remember after having my daughter and that feeling of being at lunch with my partner and listening to him just like keep on so much more on my plate. And I was in that pit of postpartum anxiety, and I was at bottom. That to me, I just like, what do I do? I've got this little baby depending on me. And I just never thought I would be able to build something that worked for me. And I think no matter where you are in your business building journey, like knowing that you're in charge of your story is such an important thing. You just have to know, just put one step, one foot in front of the other, take those steps. And you can end up somewhere amazing. And I think even more amazing than you even imagined.
Agreed. Oh, Nicole, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. This was fun.
This was so much more than I ever could have imagined.
You're making me cry.
No, honestly, thank you so much. I mean, doing this series has been so eye-opening, and every single guest we've had on here has, just the wisdom that you bring and your experience and being open to sharing that. To me, that's what entrepreneurship is. This is a community of people who are dreamers, go-getters. We're crazy, but we need people to learn from. We need to hear your story. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you for having me. This was so fun.
All right, you guys, you have heard it here from Nicole Oden. I'm going to have an email that follows this, and it will have all of her information on there and ways to stay connected, to check out her legal templates, to schedule a consultation call, check out her new website, and just stay connected. This is such an important part of your business. Do not let this be the thing that you put aside to next week, next month, next year. Just take care of it now. You'll be so grateful that you did, if God forbid anything happens. All right, you guys, have a wonderful day. Thank you, Nicole. I hope to stay in touch with you and one day meet you, since we're still here in California together.
Yes.
Have a wonderful day. Bye, you guys.